Hello, welcome to Cull the Weak Card Talk. I'm Brobnar89.
I'm Shaka.
This week we are going to be taking a look at Untamed House in this set, Dark Tidings. When we were reviewing, we noticed that there's quite a few power counter effects. Lots of ways to add power to your creatures, to manipulate the power tokens on the board in different ways, to benefit from having large power creatures. So to kick off the week, we thought it would be interesting to look at one of the cards that we think manipulates the power tokens in a very unusual way, and that is the Mushroom Pig Evil Twin. And as we go, we will dive into some of the other cards in the set that play around with the power tokens that we thought were of interest as well. Mushroom Pig Evil Twin is a 4-power, 0-armor beast mushroom. It reads, play, move all +1 power counters in play onto Mushroom Pig. And it continues, reap, you may remove all +1 power counters from Mushroom Pig. For each counter removed in this way, deal 1 damage to each other creature. So this is definitely a effect that I don't think we've seen anything like this in Keyforge before. So definitely always nice to see a new sort of interpretation of a classic element of the game. Power tokens have been around from the beginning, but I don't think there's been a lot of ways in the past that you can move the power counters around and manipulate them in that way. 1 damage to each other creature in play is going to be pretty situational. You have to wait until your next turn to trigger it. It could work in a pinch where your opponent has a big board that you just need some way to take care of. If there's a lot of power tokens on the board, it could work out for you, but kind of the problem with that is that unless you're facing another Dark Tidings Untamed, there might not be a whole ton of power counters around for Mushroom Pig to take onto itself. Even if you do boost up the power with a bunch of power tokens from your own creatures, you've just made your whole board weaker, and then you're damaging your own board. So I don't know how that is super beneficial. What are your thoughts about the Mushroom Pig Evil Twin here?
I think it's a pretty interesting card. It could turn into a board wipe if you're able to set up with other power counter cards. Many of them are returning from old sets like Bumblebird and The Fittest and Growth Surge, which give power counters to your creatures in various ways. Bumblebird actually getting more value in this set compared to the previous sets by enhancing your creatures. There are a few cards that actually turn power counters into something that advances your win condition. For example, there's an action called Ambermancy, which lets you remove up to 3 power counters and you gain an amber for every power counter. There is another action in Untamed called Waste Not, which says destroy a friendly creature, draw cards equal to half its power rounded up. So if you get a big Chonkers going, which is in this set, and Bumblebird and Flumph, you could potentially Waste Not and draw a bunch of cards, which does help advance your win condition.
That's the best way that I see using Mushroom Pig. So you've hopefully played out a bunch of those power token cards, bulked up a bunch of your board, then you play the Evil Twin Mushroom Pig, you play Waste Not on it, now that it's got all those power counters from all the different creatures across your board, and you could potentially draw, 6, 7, 8 cards. That could be a pretty nice way to set yourself up for a couple of really efficient turns.
Yeah.
So in looking at Untamed in this set, like we were saying, there's a lot of those power counter kind of manipulation and ways to play with the power counters and stuff. When I think about the theme of Untamed, at least the original theme in Coda, it was always all about burst. So this is definitely a departure from that. We do see some of those classic burst cards returning, like Fertility Chant and Fuzzy Gruen, and there's a Dark Tidings iteration of Fuzzy Gruen that's a little bit different. But I'm a little concerned looking over the Untamed house in Dark Tidings. I'm not totally sold. I might be missing something. This is entirely possible. but I'm not really seeing how this house is going to come together. Like adding a bunch of power tokens to a bunch of different cards. I don't know. I've never been convinced that fighting, despite my name being Brobner89, I've never been convinced that fighting is a great choice in Keyforge. Like most of the time, 9 times out of 10, I would rather reap. And adding a bunch of power tokens does not get you amber. You know, there's a few edge cases, like you mentioned, ambermancy, but the most you're going to get from that is 3 amber. So yeah, I'm a little worried about Untamed and Dark Tidings. What did you think about the house overall in Dark Tidings?
I think it has potential. There is more of an identity forming here that I think they've been trying to figure out for the past few sets without making it too crazy. I think among the common cards, like there are some cards that are just better than what we're used to seeing in Untamed and common slot for the past few sets. For example, like the Deepwater Gruen, if you're playing out of set, then that is just a 5-power Dust Pixie. Right? Because the tide isn't going to be low for you unless they want to take chains to do that. Chelonia, which is a tide version of Hunting Witch that I think can be really powerful, especially in multiples. You've got some ways to bring creatures back as well with new cards that we will discuss later. So I think we have some pretty good stuff in here. Yeah, there's an uncommon action, Beach Day, return a creature to its owner's hand. So that's not Nature's Call. It also gives you additional amber if the tide is high. Okay, fine. But yeah, you know, it's certainly no Nature's Call, but imagine you have a Beach Day with the high tide and you gain 2 to pull your Gruen back that you already played. So you just went up to a key with 2 cards. So if you get 2 Beach Days and like 2 or 3 Gruens, I think you could be pretty happy in terms of burst combined with Chelonia. To close out, you still have Key Frog, which is a bit harder to deal with in this specific set compared to, say, Key Charge. But I think you could get some pretty good stuff going on in Untamed. So I'm actually optimistic about it. And I think the power counters will help paired with Unfathomable or other creatures that you don't want to get killed, like an Eddy 4x4 or Calp, which is the unfathomable creature that is sort of like an Ember Imp. Then you boost the power on that a lot, and suddenly it's like pretty challenging to kill it.
Yeah, and you know, there are some interesting synergies that arise in the set, like Fangtooth Cavern has come back, so you could definitely see that synergizing well with all the power counters. We'll definitely see how it plays out. I'm not convinced at this point, but I'm still excited to try, because like anything in Keyforge, until you play it, you're really not going to know for sure how it's going to go. For me, anyway.
Yeah, same here.
All right, well, this has been our look at Mushroom Pig Evil Twin and some of the other cards that play around with the power tokens as well. Come back tomorrow for another look at another card.